I mean, that was 6-year-old me. That was 6-year-old me. I had lacquer bands and I had cards in my pocket. That was my jam, you
I
know.
was a cud. Welcome to another timeless moment brought to you by the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. If you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to support the show, please hit that subscribe button and tick that bell so you get notified whenever we go live. See you in the comments. Yes, on today's timeless moment,
You were keen to talk about this, by the way. So.
I wanted to do a quick hitter for the week. And it was more of a, given we were talking about the processes of selling cards and buying cards and not getting scammed by cards. Look, let's just talk about storing them.
Sure.
What do we do with our cards when we've got them? I think it's a quandary. Like, people have a lot of cards. Well, not always, but when you start collecting, there's this sort of momentum that gets gained and you end up with all these cards and you start a personal collection, and then the 10 cards you're displaying become 1,000 cards and you don't know what to do with a lot of them. So, I don't know, it could be a bit of a rabbit hole or a well to go down, but can't we sort of cover off the basics?
I think we should probably start off by saying there's a million different ways to do this, and however you do your hobby is fine. So if you don't do what we do, that is perfectly acceptable.
Okay, can I make a caveat to that? If you put rubber bands around your cards, then you're the problem. No.
Yeah. I mean, that was 6-year-old me. That was 6-year-old me. I had lacquer bands and I had cards in my pocket. That was my jam, you know.
I was a card storage guy from a very early age. I never used rubber bands. Anyway.
I think even some of my old footy cards, I think the elastic band still might be on them.
Yep. Oh my god.
And they're kind of like, they're like so dry. I'm pretty sure they'll just break now if I take them off. So anyway, I think we should start off by talking about, there's an Australian collector who just collects juicy patches and autographs. His name's eluding me at the moment. And he stores and displays his cards in what I would probably just describe as a china cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not too sure. So if we've got international listeners, I'm not too sure how well this is going to translate. But just sort of imagine a cupboard that's got like glass doors on it.
And you can buy these at IKEA.
But people overseas, they might not know what a china cabinet is. And then you put your plates on display or your other fine china. So it might be like a cup and a saucer. Some people collected spoons in Australia. That was like this very kind of like 80s and 90s thing. And as you traveled around to all the different pubs and stuff, you would buy a spoon.
Souvenir spoons, I remember that, yes.
This is some weird Australiana I think we're talking about. Anyway, so he took a china cabinet and literally filled this thing up to the gills with all his beautiful cards. So that's how he displays his cards.
I think any glass display cabinet is
a win.
Yeah, it's a bit of a serviceable way to. The more real estate you've got to display, the better, right?
My brother has got like runners attached to his wall, and he's put the cards up on display.
Oh,
on these sort of like a
little tile,
it's a small piece of wood. Basically, it's maybe, I don't know, say 8 centimeters. Deep, and then just puts his cards up on that. I think that's a really good idea and a different way you can do it.
And space, it can serve space because you don't want to take up other space that could be used for other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and then they're actually out on display. I think that's where I wanted to start off with this. Yeah. I think it's a really good way to start talking about where to display your cards, because I think the tendency is to put them away or put them into boxes. Whereas I think what I want to get to this is, and this is probably the most important thing I want to say today, is I put my cards out onto my desk.
Yeah.
And I rotate that 3 or 5 cards, probably not as much as I want to, but that's something I really enjoy doing, going through my collection, looking at my different cards, rotating them. And I have to put them away. So that's like something else I have to manage. But, I really enjoyed that process. And that's one of the more enjoyable things about my hobby, actually, I think. So
I like that. I like the
what
idea.
else?
I like the idea of rotating, having well, I know people that have literal rotating displays.
Yeah.
Like, and they have multiple cards on it. Yeah.
my display is not that technical.
But like being able to move your display, like I like that concept, and I'm like, okay, so I could have like a Kobe rookie theme, and then maybe like a different Kobe theme later. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, or different Lakers teams. I know people that
totally.
collect.
Yep.
But being able to display them and show them off, I think is and appreciate your collection. It's an
Yep.
important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
They've got the little stands you can buy, like little packs
Right.
of those.
There's heaps of card stands you can now purchase, and I think they've come along, a really long way.
Huge,
You can get
yeah.
stands that basically come up as small hooks, so you can put your cards into that.
Yeah.
There's also ones which I might
Oh,
have
the
some
solid base and the thing for the graded
sitting
cards.
around. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
or just for like even cards that are sitting into just normal top loaders. So this is
yeah,
called a stand-up display. I don't even know what brand makes that. Actually, the branding's not important, but basically you just put the top loaded card straight into that and just stands up on your
stands
desk.
up on your desk. Yeah,
I really like that. I think also too, particularly for the amount of space they take up and how many cards you can sort of get out on display, I think that's a really good
yeah,
option.
yeah. Mm,
I've just written a few notes down here. I'll just read them off. You just interrupt me as we're going through. So
let's do it. Yeah,
I have cards that are unsorted in boxes. So I think that's the best way to start for me. I put them into, penny sleeves, top loaders, and some bags, and then I literally just put them into boxes.
yeah,
And then those boxes will just sit on my floor until one day I sort out, a couple of hundred cards or whatever. I also have a sorting pile. So if there's cards that I need to get sorted out, either into my, my PC collections,
yep,
into my other assorted boxes, whatever they are, that's something that's really important to my
yep,
process of collecting. I think that's
yep.
the best way to say it. I've also purchased these boxes that you can essentially, they're large boxes. They're made out of cardboard. They've got dividers down the middle of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just put your cards like down through them. Inside of those boxes, you can also get dividers that you can put into them too. So you can say like A, B, or you can do like different
You can
teams.
actually, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So what I did with mine though is I actually took out the middle dividers, and this took me a bit of time, and I just used some like scissors and some tape, and I made the columns slightly wider, and that
yep.
way you can actually drop in the top loaders into them. You can purchase some boxes out there, but I think for people in Australia like myself, it's actually quite hard to get hold of those, just because the freight on them to get them
It's
delivered is usually
ridiculous. Yeah,
triple the price of actually getting
buying
them.
them.
So I
Yeah,
think it's for me, it's a bit of a funny, it's almost like a space in the marketplace. I've actually thought about buying a whole bunch of this stuff to try and see if I could flip it out, because not that many people sell it. But
yeah,
then you have to worry about the postage, and anyway, it's just one of those things I always put onto the back burner, but it was sort of always in there as a bit of an idea.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
You can get different boxes, so some of them the lid will sit all the way down to the bottom, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can actually stack those boxes on top of each other.
Yep.
And you can get another brand where the lid only goes sort of halfway. Those boxes
With
aren't designed to stack those, so just sort of keep that in
yeah,
mind if you're looking at those different boxes.
I think with the
Yeah,
box, your box selection, and as you alluded to at the beginning of the video, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's
there's absolutely.
however
Yeah,
you feel most comfortable.
yeah,
I do like the two row ones that hold top loaders and one touches.
yeah.
So, but that don't hold graded cards. So I have a separate box that I keep my graded cards in.
Yep.
But top loaders and one touches fit in these very well. Then I've got the smaller one, which only has you can have sleeved cards in.
Yep.
And then I don't really keep much in the way of raw without any protection, because that's either a lot of, if I've got bulk base, that would be in a box like that.
Yep.
But normally most things are penny sleeved at least.
Yep.
Anything of value anyway. If it's bulk and unsorted, I might go through it and see what's bulk and what's not. Yeah, you've got big storage. One thing I will tell people to take caution with is folders. I think that's an important thing with storage. If you buy the pages, the 9-pocket pages,
Yep.
and you buy a ring binder, be careful not to overdo it with the ring binder, because cards can get wedged in to that
Yep.
row near the ring. And the saddest thing is having someone that's got a folder going, look at this insert sets that I collected, and then the bottom few pages or the top few pages have got indents in the left-hand side cards.
Yeah, right.
Because sometimes folders, the ring binders aren't designed to carry those pages. So be careful with the binders you buy.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
That's just more of a word to the wise. Yeah.
So the way I look at folders is that it's for my low end stuff that I just want to look at. So for example, I'm a
Yeah, I
set
like that.
collector.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when I finish my sets, I then go through and put them into the binders. And
Yep.
so look, the total value might be, I don't know, $100 or $200, depending how many cards in there. Just say 50 cents or, a dollar each.
Yep.
But at the same time, we're not talking about, huge amounts of dollars here. However, I've definitely seen videos on Instagram where people have
Got
taken
money
out ring
collections.
binders and then they've got, Jordan PMGs and stuff like that in there. So I think they can safely store cards, but I definitely see your point of like, you need to be careful the way that you lay these cards in,
Yeah.
and you need to be careful the way you store them and all that type of stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I think for me, the really important part about those folders, though, is just the accessibility to them,
Mm-hmm.
and just the way you can just sit through it and look through them. Like that to me is very much like, I don't want to keep saying this, but really brings me back to my childhood of just like flicking through my cards. Like I remember having I've still got the folder. It's this beat up old folder with the Ultra Pro sleeves in there.
Yeah, the Ultra
Like that
sleeves are
was
the best.
it was awesome. Yeah.
It is.
After that, I've got dedicated boxes to particular things. So, for example, I've got a Herb Jones box. I've got a Darren Fox box.
The Fox box.
I've got a WNBA box. I've got a Darren Fox briefcase. This next briefcase, I'm not so. I want to admit this, but I've got an Admiral Schofield briefcase.
Don't be
so
ashamed.
that was
space.
my victim of COVID, because I found collecting in COVID so expensive. I wanted a low end prospect to buy into. I was probably hoping Schofield would go a little bit differently to how he did, but that's life. I've got my high value box, which is in a more secure, type briefcase type box, where it's got all the padding and stuff like that in that. And so, yeah, that's how I like to do it. So if I've got particular PCs, I like to put them into a box so that when I get out my Halliburton cards, I've just got that Halliburton box. I can just get that out and flicking through like that. That's my preference. And I'm all about labeling my boxes because, as you start to get more side PCs and you start to get, more this and that, I've just chucked them all into a cupboard. I would like to get my hands on them, relatively quickly. So that's the other thing. And then I've got my traders box. So that's the way I sort of break down my cards. I was talking about the bigger boxes earlier with the dividers into it. Same thing. I've sorted all those out into sets. So if I'm looking for a particular set, and I've just made my own little dividers out of old blaster boxes. That's the way that I do mine. And
I think a side note to that is when you start amassing cards, have a system. Plan out a system and
correct
and make sure that you've got the right stuff to accommodate to that system.
I think your system will evolve over time too. I think when you first start out, you have X amount of cards, and then as you sort of
1 box, 2 boxes, it grows.
So I think maybe we should talk about just really quickly storage of cards. What else is really important? I think if we're going to make this a true educational video, penny sleeve, top loader, one touches. Once your cards are in either a one touch or a graded card, I really like to put all of those into a sleeve to actually protect the one touch or protect the graded card. I think particularly for graded cards, I feel that's the most important because a one touch
scratches all over
a one touch you
card.
can replace for $5 or so. Look, there are definitely plastic polishes and all that type of stuff you can get out and do into, but I'm too lazy for that. I just put them all into
in a bag.
Into bags. They're $10 for 100. It's it's nothing, honestly, in the context of everything. Final thoughts, Ed?
Final thoughts, and one that one point I'd like to make is some people, with the way they store their cards, there are some cards that are, I suppose, more highly sought after than others. And some people, we discussed this back in the last episode. If you haven't listened, I would say go back and give it a listen. We were talking about how 1 in 3 people are a collector of things. And some people are going to collecting rather than investing money in their superannuation. So you've got people that put cards into vaults, I'm talking like legit safety deposit boxes that are holding money cards as investments. So that's the final one. If you ever come across a card that's worth a lot more than the average card, you may want to consider those more secure means of storing it. So, but yeah, there are options out there, and there's a storage option and a way to handle all types of cards, be it the run of the mill bulk stuff, excluding rubber bands. Don't ever do that, please. Having a PTSD breakdown. No. Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to reenact your childhood, maybe you could get some base cards and chuck a rubber band on it.
I remember selling cards to other kids when I was in like high school, and they're like, "Oh, cool, awesome, thanks," and they put a rubber band around them and chuck them in their pocket. I'm like, no worries.
It's your property,
money,
man.
your pocket money. I'm not going to complain, but I'm not buying them back. That's for sure. But yes. Anyway, thanks for another.
Thanks, everyone.
Another timeless moment. If you've got any other storage ideas or display options, please drop us a line in the comments if you're on YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Absolutely.